Hi guys, it's Hayley here from Storybrewers Roleplaying. Today I'm going to explain how to play our game, Dynasty, Who Will Rule the Empire. Dynasty is a GM-less game for 4 to 6 players. In this game, players take on the roles of different factions fighting for domination of an empire and find out who will rise, who will fall, and most importantly, you can find this game online for free from our website, storybrewersroleplaying.com. The game takes place in 3 stages. In the first stage of the game, players will work together to create an empire in which the game will take place. In the second stage of the game, each player will create their individual dynasty or faction that they will play for the duration. And in the third stage of the game, players will battle it out to see who will be crowned the new ruler. In the first step, you will work together to create the empire that you will play in for the duration of the game. To do this, you'll need to decide 3 basic things. Firstly, what kind of empire is this? Is this a fantasy empire, a sci-fi empire, a record empire, or something else? Secondly, what tone will this game have? Will it be serious, or much more likely, very silly? And thirdly, what specifically will be the kind of empire that you will play in? Is it going to be Rusty's death metal record empire? Is it going to be a space pirate kingdom? There are lots of options. Once you've done that, you'll be working together to answer some questions to flesh out your empire a bit more. When you're happy that you've got enough detail to play the game, you'll move on to creating the individual dynasties that you will use. Creating your dynasty is easy. The first thing you need to do is decide what your dynasty is bound by and give it a name. What binds your dynasty together is the driving force that unites them as one group towards the common goal of dominating and ruling the empire. This could be because all of you believe in democracy, or it could be because of who you are, such as space spiders, or something you all believe in, such as a religion or cult. Once you've done sorting out what your dynasty is called and what they're bound by, let everyone else at the table know. The next thing you need to do is fill out these questions. These questions help fill out some of the details about your dynasty, including what they're like, what they're known for, and why they want to take over. The third step is to create 3 leaders. These leaders are the 3 most important people in your dynasty that are the driving forces and shape its actions. Creating a leader is very straightforward. The first round will be declared the successor of the current ruler. Pretty easy. Those who expect power don't always get it. Role describes the function that they play within your dynasty, such as the strategist, the peacemaker, the diplomat, or the assassin. Next, give them a punchy description that differentiates them from everyone else in your dynasty. Leave the status section blank. We'll get to that during the game. It's time to set up the game. Place the 3 scheme decks in the middle of the playing area. Then, each player draws 4 cards from the scheme decks in accordance to their preference. Next, each player puts their dynasty sheet in front of them and takes 7 d6 dice to form their personal hidden dice pool during the game. Lastly, put a pool of d6 in the middle of the playing area for each player to use during the game. The fight for the throne takes place over 2 rounds. Each round takes place in a series of scenes. During each scene, 2 players will try to enact schemes against each other to gain the upper hand and score points for their dynasty, inching towards the crown. So let's take a look at the scheme cards. This game has a total of 48 scheme cards, which you'll need to print out in order to play the game. If that sounds like too much work for you, we also have a card-free variant, which I'll get to at the end of the video. During the game, players will play scheme cards against each other to jostle to get the upper hand. There are 3 kinds of schemes in this game. Sway schemes aimed at persuasion and material wealth, subterfuge or sneaky schemes aimed at underhanded tactics, and strength aimed at military dominance and might. Players will pick these schemes at the beginning of the game in accordance to their preferences. Each card on the other side has a description of the scheme that players can use during the scene to play. So, as you can see from this card, a player playing this scheme will accuse the leader of the other dynasty of a terrible crime in an effort to decrease their popularity and gain leverage for themselves. This scheme is also deadly. That means that when a player plays this scheme, the loser will lose one of their leaders and will no longer be able to use them in the fight for the crown. So, how does each round work? Each round will last until every player has played 3 out of their 4 scheme cards. If a player doesn't get opportunity to play at least 3, any extra cards they have will be added to their victory pile automatically. Once you've finished setup and you're ready to go, the active player will start the game. The first active player will be the person who's most recently ruled an empire. What happens during the active player's turn? The first thing the active player needs to do is pick the scheme from their hand that they want to enact and put it down in front of them. Next, they must pick another person who they want to enact that scheme against. That person is the opposing player. The third thing they'll do is set up the scene that both players will act in to see who will succeed in scoring their scheme card and moving towards the crown. An example of how a player might set up a scene is something like this. It's dark, late at night. Rusty's records is quiet. Suddenly a window creaks as Fred, the new wavist, sneaks in from the back window. He's after something. Once the first player has set up their section of the scene, it's then for the opposing player who's been selected to pick the scheme they want to play out during the scene and put that face down in front of them. They can then add any details they wish to the setup of the scene. So for example, they could say, as Fred sneaks in through the window, what he doesn't realize is Zeke is watching him on the security footage, drinking a coffee with taser in hand. He knows this is going to get nasty and he's ready for it. Once both players have set up the scene begins and plays out much like a scene would in Fiasco. The scene can have characters from any other dynasties or non-player characters in it as well, and it plays out until the active player and the opposing player are in conflict. When the two players are in conflict, then it's time to flip scheme cards and see who's won the scene. At this point, both players will flip over their scheme card so we can see what it is that they're really trying to accomplish. Each scheme card has a different symbol on it. In this case, both cards have got a shield symbol. When both cards tie, nothing happens. However, say for example, the opposing player had played this scheme card with a dagger on it. Well, shield beats dagger, so that would mean that the active player starts off with 1 extra dice. For a handy reference of which symbol beats which, you can look at your dynasty sheet. So once it's determined if the symbols on the cards grant an extra dice, then it's time for each player to secretly bid the number of dice they would like to wager during this round from their dice pools. They can bid as many as they would like, but they have to remember that these pools last for the entire round and have to get them through 3 scenes. Before they reveal how many dice they've bid, however, each other dynasty that's not in the game must weigh in on whose side they take. So each dynasty will take 1 dice from the pool and declare their dynasty's allegiance with either the active player or the opposing player, granting the player that dice and explaining why their dynasty chose that particular direction. They can also add any dice they would like from their hidden dice pool to this roll as well. Once each of the dynasty has declared their alliance and given their pool die, then players will reveal how many die they secretly bid and add these to any die they might have earned so far. Then it's time to roll. A 4+ is considered a success. So in this case, the active player has got 2 successes and the opposing player has only 1. The active player will win the scene. So the players continue to play out the scene with the knowledge that the active player's scheme succeeds and the opposing player's scheme fails, and play that scene to its narrative conclusion. Once this is done, the active player will take both scheme cards and put them in their victory pile. These will stay until the end of the game. In the unlikely case of a tie, both players' schemes succeed and they both put 1 card each in their victory pile. That's how you play a scene. At the end of the round, a new successor is declared, and each of the player must declare their allegiance to the person who is named. But the game isn't over there. Each player repeats the setup process, and then round 2 takes place. After round 2 is done, then the person with the most scheme cards in their victory pile is declared the new ruler. A coronation will take place, and then each dynasty will take turns to say the epilogue of what happened to them. Now I'll explain how to play the card-free variant. In the card-free variant, each player receives a scheme sheet allocated at random. When it comes time to play a scheme, players will instead roll a d4 and place this d4 according to the kind of scheme they'd like to play on strength, sway, or subterfuge. The scheme they will enact corresponds with the number they've rolled on the d4, in this case a 4. Interrogate their subjects for intel. When it comes time to reveal what scheme card has been played, players will instead reveal their sheet and their dice, displaying which scheme has been selected. Instead of putting the scheme cards they've won into a victory pile, players will simply keep a tally of points, with 2 points for a victory and 1 for a tie. The player with the most points at the end of the game is the winner. That's how you play Dynasty, Who Will Rule the Empire. If you've got any questions, hit us up here on our G+ or the Twitter @StoryBrewers. We hope you enjoy and things don't get too bloody at the table. Bye!